everyone, James Nine Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. In this episode, I have with you all here today an unaffiliated who is running for Hyatt County Board of Commissioners. And with that being said, I want to introduce to all of you Miss Vicki Hyatt. How are you, ma'am?
I am just doing great, and I am so excited to be on your show. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I never thought I'd get to be on one. So this is quite the honor. Thank you.
You are very welcome. I guess my first question is, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am a longtime editor of the local newspaper, The Mountaineer. It's our newspaper of record, and I was the editor for more than 25 years. I retired, and I just wasn't ready to retire. And I started thinking, what is it that I can do that I can use all the stuff that I have built upon during my career? And running for county commissioner seemed to be the perfect fit. So that's why I'm running. We also live on a cattle farm here in Western North Carolina, a little community called Bethel. And we like to say that we're surrounded by cattle, kids, and grandkids, and we love it.
That is awesome. So tell me a bit about your history.
My history, I was born in Montana. I went to school and got a degree in journalism from the University of Montana. And then I met my husband, and we lived in Montana. He was working on a ranch, and I was working for a newspaper. And then he decided we needed a different thing, and so he started doing long haul trucking, and that was fine until the kids got to be. We have two sons, and they got to be middle school age, late grade school or middle school age, and we thought he wanted to be home more with them. And he said, the only way I can't make a living in Montana, but if we moved home to North Carolina, I could. So that's what brought us to North Carolina about 30 years ago, I guess.
Wow, that is awesome. So, why are you running for Hyatt County Board of Commissioners as an unaffiliated?
Well, I'm unaffiliated because that's what I was. When you work for a newspaper, it just makes sense you don't want to have anybody think you've got your thumb on the scale. So I just was unaffiliated. And when it came time, when I finally decided I got to do something different, I just am not content being retired. That was what I was registered as. So that's what I ran as. And I've got to say, to run as an unaffiliated candidate, you need to get a percentage of the registered voters in your county to sign a petition. And in Hyatt County, it was 1,908, which doesn't seem like that much until you're out there trying to get 1,908 people to sign. But it was such a rewarding experience to me. I mean, you're really over there, you're talking to people. I one time calculated, I'd go out every day, I'd treat it like a job. And every day I'd come back and I'd count the number of signatures I had and the number of time I spent. And it was about 8 minutes per signature. So that's a pretty decent amount of time that you can talk to people. And, I wasn't just saying, please sign this. I was saying, I'm running for this. Tell me what you think our county needs, or what would you like to see done differently? And so those conversations have gone a long way to inform what my platform is as I run for this position.
Alrighty, that is fair enough. So, what is the Hyatt County Board of Commissioners?
It is the governing board that oversees all county activity. Well, I should say county government activities. Basically, those activities include setting the county budget, setting broad county policies, and just overseeing, make sure that the county is run well. And I've watched that. I've covered those meetings for I was like the newspaper reporter first, and then the editor. So for my entire time at the newspaper, I covered the Board of Commissioners either by editing stories on them or actually writing about them. So, I mean, if you look back on the past 28 years of Hyatt County history and you go to the local newspaper, which is where people find local history, my name will be right there on almost all the important issues that ever happened as far as the county government is concerned. So I've got a deep history of what's been done, what's been done good, some stuff where there were some missteps. But overall, I feel like I have a really good feel for where the county's been. And I would like to now help be part of where the county's going.
That is awesome. So, I guess my next question is, what are your thoughts on the major parties?
Let's see. With the major parties, I think that they have a purpose. I think we have a purpose for the major parties because, a- but in a way, having them gives people a crutch. It's like a reason you don't have to do your own research and see what the candidates are, what they stand for. So in that way, I think it's bad. But otherwise, I mean, we could go to other kinds of systems, I suppose, but this is what we have. So I'm just a fan, and you just work with what you have, and that's what we have now is the major parties.
Alrighty, that's fair enough. So, let's go over the competition. Who are you competing against?
Well, there's actually 3 seats open. There is one incumbent, and then one of the commissioners decided she wasn't going to run again, and another of the commissioners didn't survive the primary. So actually, there are 3 open seats, and there are 7 candidates vying for the 3 open seats. So that's what, if you call it competition. I look at them as colleagues because I know every one of them. They are all wonderful people. They all have the very best, the very best in mind for what they see as the county. And I feel like I could work with all of them. And I mean, that's what you need when you're a board of 5. You need to get along and work with people because you're not doing nothing if your vote's 1 against 4. So it's important to have a working relationship with your colleagues. So you're not going to see any negative things coming out of my campaign because number 1, I know them all and I like them all. So what's there bad to say about them? I just want to be one of the three that get elected.
All right, that's actually pretty good to hear. And I see from your competition that one of them that you're competing against is a guy by the name of Blake Hart.
Yes, he is a great guy. He runs a nonprofit that's called Haywood Christian Ministry. It is a group of all the churches in the county have decided that they can do more together than they can alone. And it used to be kind of when it started out, it was an overall ministry that helped people in all sorts of situations. And under Blake's leadership, it's turned into more of a food ministry. And he has done a phenomenal job we're like the Manna Food Bank, perhaps the largest one in Western North Carolina. And we've got a distribution point in our community in Bethel. And from there, food is sent out to all of the outlying communities in our county and beyond our borders, I believe, but you'd have to ask him about that.
Fair enough. And speaking of asking, since you said that you are in contact with him, do you think you can get him in contact with me so that way I can have him on my podcast as well, since he is an unaffiliated?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I've got his cell phone, or if not, yeah, I'm down there a lot because we raise vegetables in the summer. And when I can't sell them at the farmer's market, I would just take the extra ones down there because I would just rather have them go to where they're needed,
All right, that is awesome. So, I guess let's talk about your platform. What is your platform?
Well, I got to say that my platform is still evolving. It's more evolved than it was when I started. But when I was getting all those petition signatures, and when people would come up with ideas, I would write them down. And then I would ask them, I'm saying, I've got this list here, and I call it my fix-it list. And my fix-it list is, I don't know all the answers. I can't fix things alone, but would you be part of the people that I could interact with, have come to focus groups and help me as we kind of make this campaign together? And if they said sure and gave me their email list, I just put them on my fix-it list. And so right after I qualified for the ballot, I started holding little focus meetings. And so I invited everybody on the fix-it list. Let's get the synergy of not just one-on-one conversations between me and them, but let's get everybody involved and see what it is that what are the big problems we need to tackle and how do we go about doing that. And I've had like I guess four of them, and it's really clear the problems that evolved are really big ones. The big one, of course, is affordable housing, and that's not just here, that is all over. And the second one, because we're a rural community, people are noticing that we're having housing developments all over the place, and it's in the place of that used to be really prime farmland. And people are really, really upset to be losing the beautiful pastoral area that would bring a part of the tourists to our county. But plus, not to say that mention the food that are produced on farms. So those two are, I mean, they're big issues for a reason because they're hard, but we're not shying away from the big issues. And by the time I finish, probably I'd say by mid-June, I'm going to have concrete plans that we can use to attack those two big issues.
Alrighty, that's actually really good to hear. I mean, I haven't really talked much about affordable housing on this podcast, so I guess tell me what's going on with the affordable housing situation in Haywood County.
Well, there's about three things that are really contributing to the issue. It was already bad before we were hit by two hurricanes. Okay, and it was bad because our county is a beautiful area. Tourists flock here, and they love it because we're a friendly community. There's not a place in our county that isn't beautiful, and compared to some of the big cities where these people are from, apparently the cost of living here is less than say in Florida or Texas or wherever they have been. So they are moving here in droves. The other reason I think they're moving here is because our little corner of Western North Carolina has got a very pleasant climate. We've got the winter season. It's not that sweltering hot that you get in the South in the summertime, and it always cools off at night. And so it's pleasant people, pleasant community, a beautiful scenery, and just functional, nice communities. So people were flocking here, okay? And then during COVID, everybody got into the bed and breakfast thing, and they decided, why should we rent houses if we can just put our little this house into a B&B, Airbnb? And they were making bucks during COVID because during COVID, people didn't really want to go to crowded cities. They wanted to come to the countryside where they could have a little house and they could go hiking in the woods and they wouldn't be around a lot of people. So all of a sudden, that contributed with the loss of housing. And then in 2021, Hurricane Fred came through, and that was a massive, massive flood in the very southern end of our county, took out hundreds of homes. I mean, some were just washed away. Others were damaged beyond that 50%. And a flood damage, if it's more than 50% damage, you can't rebuild where it is. So not only home sites, but homes were lost. Um, and then in 24, Hurricane Helene came through. And you've heard about that all across. That was a much larger region. And it hit us again, just 2 years, 3 years later. And nobody was expecting that. And that took out another 600 homes. So the affordable housing thing here, and I mean, a lot of people are moving here, but they've got a lot of money. They've got cash money, and they are building like multi-million-dollar homes on the mountaintops. So the builders are busy doing those because you make more money doing those. And the houses, our average housing price here in Haywood County, I think it was like $200,000 a couple 3-4 years ago, and now the average home price is, I think it's $350,000. So tell me, how are young folks such as yourself, how are you going to afford a starter home to get a toe on it? This is the American dream. Your little piece of dirt, your little home, your little way that you can start out and then grow as your family grows. I mean, that dream is just lost for people, young people in our community, and I'm guessing all over the nation from what I read.
Yes, absolutely. It is really devastating. And you mentioned, and I know you've mentioned like hurricane. That's the second hurricane, Hurricane Helene, and that was pretty devastating. And I haven't heard much about Hurricane Fred. Tell me, what was Hurricane Fred like?
It was pretty isolated to just a couple, three western counties. And what happened that made it more devastating than other ones um, was, up in Pisgah National Forest, the Shining Rock Wilderness area. That's all part of our county. That's the alert. That's why people come here. You've got 13 mountain peaks over 6,000 feet. Every bit of water we use in this county originates here. We've got four entrances to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So we're talking high up in the mountains. And so, what it was thought eventually that there was a clog right there by the base of Shining Rock Wilderness area. And then the pressure just kept building, building, building as more of that water gushed down. And finally, the dam, whatever was clogging it, broke. And it sent what witnesses describe as a wall of water that just gushed through the valley. And so it didn't come with the force of just rising floodwaters. This was a gushing, unclogged, whatever was clogging it that came on down, and it just wiped out all of those homes where, people like to live by the beautiful river. And so they saw the other side of living by the beautiful river.
All right, fair enough. I guess since we are in the topic of hurricanes, what was Hurricane Helene like?
Oh gosh, yeah, I mean the devastation was indescribable. That all the stuff that had gotten flooded before, I mean, they were rebuilding with flood resiliency in mind, but the force of that hurricane and the sheer amount of water, it was higher than anybody's ever seen. And this is like the fourth flood we'd been through, and people would mark it, and we'd know how high the waters were, and nothing ever equaled Hurricane Helene. But I do have to say this about Hurricane Helene. It was a way that galvanized this community in a way that surpassed anything else I have ever seen. I mean, everybody was congregating at their church. Churches were mobilizing. They were mucking out homes. There was a place, there were shelters where people could go. I mean, we have a shelter that we opened that you can bring your pets, because a lot of people, weren't going to leave if they couldn't take their pets. And we saw that in Hurricane Fred. So the county built a shelter with some COVID relief funds, and it's got a place in the basement where you could bring your pets. And I think there were lives saved because the county had that shelter where people, because there were people that said, I am not leaving without my animals.
Wow, that is actually very inspiring. So I guess next we can talk about is the housing developments on what used to be on farmland. So let's talk more about that.
The thing of it is, we're farmers ourselves, so I totally understand what's going on. Farmers, and kind of by design, but sometimes just you just can't help it. Farmers do not have a lot of income just because it's a year to year thing. If it looks like you're going to be paying a little bit of tax, you just go buy some more fertilizer, you buy some more hay, you try to keep your tax burden down. So that keeps down the taxes you pay. Like, if you don't pay into Social Security, but there's a self-employment tax. But if your income is always just like right there on the line, not very much, you've not saved up much income. And so you haven't paid into self-employment tax. Their retirement is their land. That's what they have. It's a family land. They love it. They don't want to part with it. But at some point, you're old, you can't work the land. You might need a nursing home. How are you going to pay for that? Well, I guess I'll sell the farm. And we have developers that are just, I mean, they've got helicopters circling around here. They're just looking for places of land. And we get calls all the time. Would you sell your farm? And it's like, absolutely not. Please don't call us, because we've got two generations now that we hope we're raising them to take over the family farm. So anyway, there are the farms that have traditionally been the long running farms here have there's a lot of development pressure, and people are waving millions of dollars in front of them. And the thing is, you can't blame them. They don't want to sell, but there's really no option. But there is an option, and it's called farmland preservation funding. And what that does is you split the development rights from the farming rights, okay? Because longtime farmers like us, we don't care about development rights because we're never going to see this develop. We would prefer that it would just stay forever in an undeveloped space. So what you do is you can just, it's like mineral rights. You just sever the development rights from the farmland, but you have to have a source of funding that will buy those development rights. And there's places out there that do that. Conservation development funds. The state has allocated some funding, not near enough. And what I'd like to do is see some, like right here in our county, I'd like to see a private fund built out because we have so many people who live here that value the farm, that value the rural community. I would like to give them an option to say, here, let's put into the fund. Let's help buy the development rights and keep this farm forever undeveloped. And there's like a system that you can do that. The Soil and Conservation District, they prioritize what are the farmland, the prime farmlands that we need to keep in farmland so that 20 years from now, we won't be having like cultured lab meats, and we won't be eating like vitamins instead of wholesome foods. So there's a priority. There's way more people. Went to Raleigh to lobby for more farmland preservation funding. It was a busload of our Farm Bureau members here. And we learned that there was $59 million of requests, people that said, yes, we want to keep our farms, but we'll sell you the development rights. And there was like $3.1 million available. So we've got all these people that are willing to do the right thing, keep their farm and farms, and then forever. It's like my point when I got to speak was, this is a one and done thing, guys. You buy the development rights, you never have to worry about that farm again. It will always be a farm. The farmer will still have it. He or she can pass it down to their heirs, or they can sell it to a young farmer who can maybe afford a farm if they're not competing with the D.R. Hortons of the world, who have just swooped into our county and are buying every 30 plus acre parcel of land they can find to put houses on.
Yeah, that's honestly insane. What kind of food do these like farmers usually grow?
Well, in our county, the big crops are tomatoes, peppers, green peppers. There's some apple orchards, some orchards, not as many as like in the neighboring county of Henderson. And then what we're seeing, and this is the next generation of farmers I see, is people that have got like 1, 3, 5, 10 acres, and they're growing the kind of vegetables that you would sell like at a farmer's market. That's a direct sale to the consumers. The people that do the commercial tomatoes, the commercial peppers, the watermelons, any kind of row crops. We've got a packing house down the road here from our place in Crusoe, and you sell it to the packing house and they ship it out to all grocery stores across the nation. So that's the kind of farming that they do here. But I think I see the future of the farms being those small people that, the closer you are to your food source, number one, the better it's going to be. When they pick, I've gone through the packing house, they pick green tomatoes. And I don't know if you've ever tasted the difference between a grocery store tomato and a vine ripened tomato, but it's a night and day difference. And so if you really want that good tasting tomato, you need to buy it from somebody at the farmer's market that picks it when it's ripe and sells it the next morning.
Yeah, fair enough. Why do you think the tastes are so different?
Well, because they're not I mean, when you've got the stuff that has to be shipped miles and miles to a grocery store, you can't pick it ripe. You've got to pick them green. And then they do eventually, the tomatoes will ripen. Well, everything will ripen eventually, but it's just not the same as having the sun just ripen it naturally.
Okay, fair enough. Are there any other issues that you've heard?
Well, the other thing, everybody always talks about economic development, and yeah, we need to change as the times change. But what I'm seeing is we've not ever had any big company that's going to come to our little Haywood County and save us. There's just we've got a lot of things that we think are nice selling points. We've got like the top educational system in the state, really. Out of 115 school districts, we are consistently in the top 10%. So that's always an important lure for manufacturers. But the big manufacturers, people that bring a lot of jobs, they just don't come here. And we also lost our major employer for years, since 1908, was a paper mill in Canton. And in between our two floods, okay, as if the two floods weren't bad enough, they announced that that mill was closing. And it closed, like, they announced it in March and it was closed by June. Not a lot of time for people to absorb the shock, find a different job. I mean, the mill has been part of the lifeblood of Canton, North Carolina. We've got the longest running Labor Day parade, and that's having this strong working class community. The labor unions were strong, and it was just as the mill shut down. Those were families. They would work like shifts, 12-hour shifts, and everybody would say that this is my family I'm leaving. I spend as much time with my coworkers at that mill as I do my family. And it was a loss psychologically. It was a loss economically. And there was the ripple effect. It wasn't just the people that actually were employed at the mill, which was 900, but it was beyond that. There were all the people that supplied the chips that went to make the paper. There were all the lumber industry had to totally reinvent itself. And now what we have is we don't have our largest employer. We did acquire the big distribution center there that we can perhaps market to a smaller level manufacturing. It's not going to be anything to replace what we lost, but at least replace some jobs. And so there's that. But personally, what I see from from person to person gathering petitions, I really see developing our small business. And I think that's the way we can grow, one business at a time. This little business, I've met so many, they're on the cusp of, like, we make soap here, and we're marketing it, we're kind of getting a toehold. What we'd like to do is hire an employee and then maybe market wider. And I see those kind of things all over the entrepreneurial spirit. And I'd like to see to be that we could be the cheerleaders to go foster that kind of growth in the community. It's organic growth. It's not bringing in a bunch of new people. That, again, there's the housing crisis. These are people that are here that already live here. I think that if we would put some more effort in that way, it would pay off in big dividends.
Alrighty, that's actually pretty good to hear. Good to hear. So, how do we help small business?
Well, I think number one, I think we support them. I mean, if I had a slingshot and could throw rocks at every time an Amazon.com truck came through my neighborhood, I would be. No, I would never do that, but I kind of curse them under my breath and say, why don't we shop locally? We have everything we need in our community. And I mean, even if it's, we've got one big box store really, which is Walmart. But, I like to go and look at stuff. I don't like to just look at them on a screen personally. And so pretty soon, if everybody decides the lazy way to get your stuff is to just order it through Amazon, then we won't have any stores, and we will get what we don't want, which is no diversity at all in our communities. And I try to explain to my son, who does the same thing, I don't have time to go shopping. I'm like, but when your kids need to have somebody to support their yearbooks or to support their little league team, who do they go to? It's the small businesses that pony up and help them, and you need to go patronize them back. So I think that's a big message. We could do a campaign on just that: shop at home all the time, not just at Christmas.
Pretty fair enough. And it's really interesting. It actually reminds me of an online shopping experience my dad actually had when he attempted to order a laptop, but it wasn't an actual laptop when he got it. It was actually just more of a cover, and I actually had to help him get a refund. So that was insane.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know if you order online, you're just talking to computers and AI bots, and it is frustrating to try to find a real person to solve any online problem.
Absolutely. And since we are on the topic of AI, what's your thoughts on the AI situation in the United States right now?
Well, I'm going to start locally because locally, what we have are we've got four municipalities in Haywood County, and three of them have passed a moratorium on data centers. It's pretty clear that the people in our county do not want data centers for a number of reasons. They take up a lot of water to cool their enormous banks of computers. They don't they don't generate jobs. They just don't. They're computers that run by themselves. You can run a data center that's like a 1 megawatt data center, and those are about the size of a Home Depot or a Lowe's. You can run those with like a 5 people. You don't need a lot of people to do it. And a data center that size takes up enough electricity to power a city of 100,000. And in Haywood County, we've got 65,000 people. So to put one data center here, it's going to suck up enough electricity for all of us and then some. And just recently, I testified at the Duke Energy hearing, and so I did a lot of research on they're wanting a 13% raise in our electricity prices. And so you research it. Why is it you think you need to raise rates? Well, they're building for the future. They need more electricity. And so, why do they need more electricity? You drill down, and they said, well, 80% of that growing need is to power data centers, which powered AI. And it's like, oh, so we, the consumers, are paying to power data centers that will power AI that are going to take us away from our jobs, that are going to take away all of our jobs. So, why exactly would we want to do that? So that's the big thing, and this is more of a state issue because the moratoriums can only last a year by law, and the moratoriums are to give you a chance to reconfigure your laws so that you can better control what is cited where. But the state legislature now has come up with this brilliant idea of saying there will be no down zoning. Now, down zoning means if my farm out here is just we have no zoning at all. So that means you can do anything. Somebody could come in here and do anything on this land because it's not zoned. So if it should be zoned, um, they people could I could say, well, I might want to save my land, so I could use it for maybe a data center, get a lot of money out of it. If everybody around me said, no, 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 we don't want that, and I was the lone holdout and said, nope, nope, I want to keep it the way it is, nobody could stop that because that one lone person that wanted to sell their land for whatever they did could control the whole thing in the community. So, by the state legislature saying no downzoning, there's effectively no way that we can put rules and regulations on things like data centers, which three of our four municipalities have said they don't want. So that's a problem to me. That's a problem. I think there's some ways, and I actually testified before the county commissioners on the ways that we could modify our high impact zoning ordinance. And high impact is for things like, you know, um, if somebody wants to have a, a rock crushing machine like next to a school or a hazardous waste site. Those are considered high impact. I'm thinking we could include, I mean, and they are the data centers or the crypto mine is another thing that does the same thing. They're considered high impact, but the rules on them, it doesn't regulate noise. And by not regulating noise and just a 750-foot separation, we have cattle. And if there was a data center in 750 feet, which is just down as far as our creek, that would drive the cattle nuts. You could not have livestock on our farm. And so it makes no sense. to not provide in some way, shape, or form to allow municipalities and counties and local governments to control who puts offensive uses of property next to them.
Damn, that's insane. So, anyways, how's the campaign doing right now?
Well, what I'm doing is, as a journalist, I'm just kind of used to writing things. So I am going around. I hold meetings with leaders in our community, not county leaders necessarily, because I don't want to politicize that part. I know all the county leaders, I know all the department heads, but that's not who I'm meeting with. I'm meeting with people that are key nonprofit people in our community. I'm meeting with the community college folks that have a vast amount of knowledge. I'm meeting with, the Haywood Waterways Association, which is so important after the kind of the flooding that we had. What do we need to do? And I'm just gathering information, and I'm putting it in an email to a newsletter. All those people on my Fix It list and anybody that's following me, they can get on my newsletter. And I just say, here's what's going on in the county. These are some of the issues. And what I'd like to see is, I've followed county government a long, long time. I like all the people I've ever covered. I think they do a good job. But what I don't see, I see their focus is just on county government. But our county is so much more than just the governing in the county. I mean, all the nonprofits that do so much in our community, like, I'm on the board of the Haywood Pathway Center. And that's a form of, if you're homeless, it's not one of those, you have to follow rules. You have to be sober, you have to be drug free, you have to get a job, you have to need to make a life plan so that in 6 months you're out of there. We've got you kind of incubated, and there you are onto your life. And that keeps, we don't have the huge giant homeless population that you see in other places, because this is a center not just to enable homelessness, but to say, is this where you want to be? If you really don't want to be in this place, come here. We can help you. It's a faith-based program, and for the past 10 years, we've got so many graduates in our community that have gone through that program and sing the praises of Haywood Pathways all the time. And then we've got the care organization. There's children that are abused. I mean, I hate to say that, I hate to know that, but it is the case. And these children are abused. They have so much trauma. And this agency helps them through that trauma. I don't know that you can ever help them, but it's better than just living in a balloon here and say, oh, that doesn't happen in our community. It happens, and they're dealing with it. We've got a shelter for victims of domestic violence. Women that just feel so, they just feel trapped in a relationship that's very abusive, very violent, and they have no place to go. So we've got the Reach organization, and it helps them out of that situation. But these are all entwined. There comes back to the affordable housing issue. Yes, you get out, you get escaped. They can shelter them for a little bit, but where do you go? There's no places where they can move that they can afford, even if they have a job. They're used to having a two-family income. Where do you go? So all of the things that happen in our community are entwined. So to me, when I look at this job of county commissioner, I look at it holistically. Yes, you got to take care of the government, but I see, by interacting and having a look and interacting with all of the elements of our society that are there trying to make it a better place in Haywood County, that would be a better approach. And I have not seen that in the 20 some years, 25, 26 years I've been covering county government. So this is a whole different approach, and we'll see if it catches on. I don't know. A lot of times people don't like change. I mean, I'm unaffiliated, so that's a change they might not like. Um, so I don't know how it's going. We'll know on November.
Fair enough. So, this next question I usually ask with all the unaffiliated. So, where do you fall under the political spectrum?
Well, here is the most interesting thing about that. And I mean, I've got to focus on local issues because that's where I can make a difference. And all the years that I've covered municipal governments, and the municipal governments here are nonpartisan, but I've covered the county government, which is partisan. Um, and I have never ever witnessed a partisan divide on our board. I mean, yeah, there's divides, but it hasn't come down on partisan issues. It's mostly divides on shall we build it or shall we not? That kind of a thing. Or if we do build it, where do we build it? Those are the kind of issues that tend to divide people. So they're not partisan issues. But the one thing I think would be good if there were way more nonpartisan people in our county. It's like more than 40% are unaffiliated. So we've got a large number of people that are unaffiliated, but they tend to vote Republican because we get, I think the last presidential election, we had 60% voted for Trump. So I'd say even though they're unaffiliated, a lot of them favored the Republican side. But when I look at the political gerrymandering, I hate gerrymandering. I mean, I don't care whether it's race or whether it's politics, just the fact that you are not having compact electoral districts and that you've got counties where there's tendrils reaching into another county so that you can make safe seat for somebody that is like hundreds of miles from where you live. That is just stupid. In order to be represented by somebody, they need to know your community. And the last gerrymander that we had, well, I don't know if it was the last, but the one that we've been using, we've got a guy that lives two hours away from here. And we would have, as a newspaper, we'd have little forums and little candidate questionnaires. He'd never even answer. He wouldn't even engage because we were such a tiny little portion of his district. He didn't need us. I mean, why would he care what we did? And that's what gerrymandering allows, is that you don't have people that know you and want to know what your thoughts are and want to really represent you. So that's why I hate gerrymandering. So if everybody was unaffiliated, guess what? There wouldn't be anything to gerrymander. We'd all get an equal vote, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Gerrymandering is very, very awful. And you know, come to think of it, I actually do know at least one third party that is opposed to gerrymandering and seems to agree with you on some of the issues that you stand for. Would you like to get into contact with that third party?
Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't, I'm just sort of focused on Haywood County because, I mean, that's not going to be an issue that I'm going to fight because that's to be done. That's why we elect our state representatives, our state senators. You know, we try to find those people that will fight that battle. I look at what's going on in Haywood County, and the battles that we've talked about are the ones that I'm going to try to tackle because I know I can make a difference there. I can't see me. I mean, it's like spitting in the wind for me to try to stop gerrymandering, frankly.
All right, fair enough. Would you be open to getting endorsed by third parties, or would you be more of a stick to being unaffiliated no matter what?
Yeah. Well, no, you know, I'm going to be my own person regardless. And you know, I don't want corporate donations. I don't want, well, you can't take donations, but you know, I don't want corporations. I'm just a person of the people. Any person that's just a regular folk that wants to endorse me, I'm happy with that. But you know, I don't really need any, you know, chamber of commerce endorsements or any big businesses. I just don't really need the endorsements of anybody else. I just want to be a person there working for the people. I'm one of the people. I'm working for the people.
All right, fair enough. So, do you have any social media?
Yes, I do. I'm on Facebook. I quit after I quit. After I quit the retired from the newspaper, I pretty much stopped social media because I hate it. I hate the algorithms. I hate the fact that you're in this little bubble and you're only talking to people that have the same views as you. I just don't like social media. But when you're running a campaign, you got to go play along. So I went back and I'm starting to post on Facebook. I've got my own campaign website that I post things on. But you know, I'm not posting social things. I'm posting issue stuff. Like I visited with Rebuild Haywood this week, and here's how they were able to rebuild and work on 300 homes in the last 19 months, and here's how they did it. And you know, those are the kind of things that I talk about. There's right now a big thing with the county budget. They're looking at a 7-cent tax increase because of, well, because of like the four things we talked about: two hurricanes, the mill closure, and then COVID just totally wiped out so much of what was going on, and everybody fell behind. And now they're looking at us. Oh, and then the other thing was, ages ago, a decision was made to build a new jail, and we just didn't build it a little bit. We doubled, more than doubled the capacity, and that new jail is coming online. And so a lot of people are arguing, oh, we want to fund schools instead of a jail. Well, the time for that discussion was 6 years ago when they were making that decision. We've got the jail. We got to pay our bills. You just gotta. So that's driving about half more. That's driving half of the tax increase, and the rest is just all FEMA said that they would pay for all this flood stuff. Yeah, go and repair after your flood. We'll send you money. Well, they haven't paid. They paid. It was very, very late, and we still have, I think, 7 million outstanding. That's a lot of money that you have to spend to get FEMA money. You got to spend it first, and then they reimburse you. Well, we haven't gotten reimbursed yet. And everybody's got their fingers crossed. Well, we hope you reimburse us, but we'll see it. We'll breathe easier when we see the money.
All right, fair enough. And I just finally found your website too. I didn't know about your website, but yeah, I actually found it. And you've went through over some of the things on your website, but there's a couple I'd be happy to talk to you about. A focus on youth. As the realities of a technology-driven society sink in, parents want their children to have things to do in their county now, and to know that they will have opportunities here in the future. Your ideas can help drive these efforts.
Well, here was what was interesting in that all these parents were saying, we want something for our kids to do, like an arcade maybe. Well, that's something that the business community has to do. If there's an entrepreneur out there and they thinks that there would be a market for an arcade, that's kind of beyond what county government can do. But what I found myself doing, because I know what's going on in the county so much, after covering it for 28 years, I know every aspect of our community. And they'd say, well, there's nothing to do. And I'm like, well, what do you think about the new pump bike track? Or pump, it's like a pump bike, it's not electronic, but you just pipe, and then it's got little jumps and hills. And I said, that's going to be opening. What? Well, we didn't know about that. I said, yeah. And so they thought that was a wonderful idea. And then I started looking around. There's hundreds of things in this community for kids to know. But go back to the social media. That's where everybody gets their news. They're all kind of on their own little bubble, and they don't know. There's no one central area where you can find out about all the things that go on all the time for kids to do. So, and this might be something that we could do at a local level. No, I'm not saying the county should do it, but the Kiwanis, their whole focus anymore, Kiwanis, is young children. So why could they not get a website, and they would pull in every single thing that people can do with kids in the county? Our little local newspaper already does that. Maybe we could partner with the Mountaineer and say, you already have a calendar. Let's build it so that, there's ongoing things. The calendar is kind of like, we're doing this, the Hart Theater, there's this play tryouts this week. Maybe do a comprehensive ongoing thing and make just one big place where everybody with kids could go say, let's see what's going on this weekend. And so that's something that, I don't think is going to take a lot of energy to solve that one. But I hope that we have time before you go, because I listened to a number of your podcasts, and I'd like to talk to you for just a little bit about what you're hoping to accomplish with your podcast and what you're finding from what all you're learning here.
Yeah, we actually still got quite a bit of time left, and yeah, I can go over that. One thing that I'm aiming for this podcast is I'm trying to help make this podcast grow, so that way I can help spread the word for third-party and unaffiliated candidates in the state of North Carolina, because I do think that we do need more options on the ballot across the spectrum, regardless of political ideology, especially for the fact that the state government has already made some efforts to push back against third parties by basically increasing petitioning restrictions in order to make it more difficult for third parties to get on the ballot, and for unaffiliated offices at the federal level, and for some of the for a lot of the statewide races in North Carolina, it's actually pretty bad. For for U.S. House and for like state legislature, it's not as bad. But like but for president, U.S. Senate, governor, lieutenant governor, all the statewide races for unaffiliated, it's like at a minimum 83,000 at a minimum, and that's not even accounting for signatures that might get tossed out. So that's really that really does suck. But yeah, I mean,
But think of it this way, James. If you do it like you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Like for my getting my signatures, I didn't get them all. I had people that supported me. I went to small businesses because I thought wintertime, it's kind of a small, it's kind of a dead time in a tourist community. So I went to businesses I knew and said, "How about I put my petitions here?" And I bought some radio ads, and I said, "Go to these businesses and sign my petitions." And if you were doing, you could make a difference at the state level doing that. If you got candidates for the General Assembly for that would run unaffiliated, I mean, look, if you look at the other voter registration stats, I bet Haywood is not alone in having more unaffiliateds than either party members. There's just general disgust with both of the political parties that we have. So if you could amass and get people interested is running unaffiliated, I think you could have, number one, I think you could have success at the state level. I mean, and it's
absolutely.
worth a try. You would need a few more signatures, but all that does is that involves in amassing a few more volunteers, and you know that it's an opportunity to talk to people. I mean, I feel like I'm probably 2,000 votes ahead, not votes, but 2,000 contacts ahead of all my competitors because I've been out there. I've talked to people like clear back in December, and they're not going to start till probably Labor Day. That's when most people start campaigning, you know. So, but I've already been starting like a year ahead of them. And the same thing would happen with legislatures. So hats off to you for trying that.
Thank you. And there are a number of unaffiliated running for local office, and there is like one running for state senate, I believe, or state house, I believe. That April
Oh,
Montgomery.
good.
Yeah, I think her name is April Montgomery, and she's running as an
Mhm.
unaffiliated, and her only challenger is the Republican incumbent. And yeah, I'm still working on trying to get an interview with her.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch because I think as more unaffiliated get on the ballot, I mean, is the barrier just the petition signatures, or are people really so accustomed to the D or the R that they won't think you? I mean, and I tend to think that maybe that's the barrier might just be the petition drive. And once you're on the ballot, you're on the ballot. And hopefully we can get, especially at the local level, people will get to know the people as opposed to the party. Because how many of us really agree 100% with everything one or the other party does?
Exactly, and it actually reminds me of a quote that I remember hearing about. I forgot who said it, but I think the quote was, "If you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, please vote for me. If you agree with me on 12 out of 12 issues, go see a psychiatrist."
That's good. Well, now tell me, is this your full time job?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool, cool, cool. So, like, I don't see any ads on here. How do you just have people that support you or subscribe, or how do you make this into a job?
Well, first of all, I'm currently trying to grow this out right now, so that way I can get like grow over the watch time and all that. And then once I can get like the amount needed, then I'll start like monetizing my videos, and then I'll earn money that way.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Well, I've got another question for you because you look kind of young. How old are you?
Oh,
If you don't mind me asking.
yeah, no problem. I'm actually 24 years old.
Okay. Well, here's my question for young people that I'd love to that I ask everybody. How do you feel about the so-called American dream? Do you feel that that is attainable for you?
I feel like the American dream is attainable to me, but I think for everybody, I think it really depends on it really depends on their circumstances, because I don't think everyone is able to access the American dream. Sometimes it depends on resources, sometimes it depends on the environment, and yeah, I think I agree with a lot of people when they say that the American dream is slipping away.
What is the American dream in your generation's mind? What is that American dream?
In my generation's American dream, I think my generation's American dream might just be to survive and maybe hopefully try to make something happen.
Oh gosh, think about that, James. Think about what you said. Your dream is to survive and make
Hmm.
something happen. Is that a dream, really? And that's so sad as a society. If that's what your generation is feeling, I feel guilty and sad. Like we should be able to offer you all so much more than that.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people may have more ambitions. I think a lot of people do actually have dreams to like be big. So I think one of the big dreams for some people is to like be big on social media. For others, it's just try to earn a lot of money. For others, it's just try to just be famous. And yeah, I think that's around the area I would say for my generation.
Now, see, back to when when I was growing up in the American dream, it was to have your own home because that's where you start. That was the very start to start laying roots and establishing a starting point from which you could grow. And now I read the average age, the people, first time homeowners, the average age is 40. By the time you're 40, you've already got your kids. You're already in the midst of the chaos of family and all the activities and everything that involves that. You've got a job that you're trying to raise a family. I mean, it's really a late time that we're delaying that part of the American dream. But maybe if owning a house isn't the American dream, maybe I'm the one that's kind of looking at that wrong.
I think for some people, owning the house is still part of the American dream. I think it's just less people now because of the rising housing costs, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Okay, this last one on your website. Everyone matters. Strong communities have a supportive network where everyone feels they belong and where all can work together toward common goals. When times get tough, such a network becomes a necessity. There are dozens of ways to fight food insecurity, the loneliness epidemic, substance abuse, and more when the community is part of the solution.
Don't you think that's true?
Yeah,
I mean, truly it is. I might be a pessimist, but I see really hard times coming because, and we're already seeing the start of that. Part of the reason our county had to raise taxes, property taxes, by 1 cent, 1 cent of that is because of the big beautiful bill, which is cutting back on the foods. It's called the SNAP program. That's the one where you get electronic benefits if your income is very, very low. And I've interviewed, just as part of my little thing, I just go and interview people standing in the Haywood Christian Ministry foods box line. And they can go in there and they can shop and get a box of groceries for free. And there's like one little old lady that's getting her food stamps. She's a single person. She gets $78 a month. It's not a lot of money, but it's for her, it makes all the difference because she can get food at the food bank, but there's other things you need, like you're going to need toilet paper, you're going to need cleaning supplies, the stuff that you just can't get at a food pantry, you're still going to need. And that's why those and even if you have a family of four, I think there's one family I interviewed had a family of six, and they got $248 to maintain, just to help. And it's these people are not just laying around doing nothing. They are working. They just have kids. They've got circumstances. Some people are raising their grandkids. There's sad circumstances out there. So the electronic benefits of SNAP program is just a program that we have, and that has been cut substantially already. And next year it's going to be cut more because a lot of the cuts from the big beautiful bill were delayed until after the midterm election. So what do you do in a community when you see kids who are starving, when you see elderly people that are eating, I mean, deciding, well, do I buy dog food for my dog, do I get my prescriptions? I mean, those are the kind of choices that realistically people are making. So do you just sit there and say, oops, well, the federal government cut the money, what do we do? I don't want to be the county that says, well, we'll just raise taxes, because that's a double-edged sword, because those people have a house and they have to pay taxes too. So I think there needs to be outside the box thinking solutions. And one of those things I think is community gardens. I mean, we've got a little community center in the very northern reaches of our county, Fines Creek, and they're a manna food distribution site. So they get food in, they give out all they can. And if it looks like it's going to spoil, you know what they do? They bring in their little old ladies in the community that still know how to can, and they can that food. And come wintertime, when we don't have fresh beans or we don't have corn, you've got it right there. And you can give out the canned beans. And there's that kind of a, and there's all over this county, I guarantee you, with little old ladies like me that still know how to can. And we have an abundance that we grow in the summer. How many people do you know that still preserve their food for the next season? That we can bring that back. And number one, I think that is one way we can help people. And then I think there's this vast loneliness epidemic. People are living way, way longer than they used to, and they just are alone a lot. And I think there's the other part of the big beautiful bill is, in order to qualify for expanded Medicaid. I don't know if anybody's talked to you about that, but that's a way that people can get the health insurance. And it happened under the COVID, and there was an expanded Medicaid program that would help get more insurance for those people between 18 and 64. So now they've said, well, yeah, you can still have it, but you're going to have to work 10 hours a week. And we're going to qualify you twice a year. Well, in order to set up that whole infrastructure to check people twice a year instead of only once a year, and to set up a way where do you get a job? Where do you volunteer and get a job? All that mechanisms, we have to hire a bunch more staff, and locally we have to pay for that. So that's what they call the unfunded mandate that's being passed down to the counties. We don't have a choice. So I think as that stuff happens, if people can't find a job and they have to lose their benefits, what happens to them? So I don't want to be that county which says, well, too bad, you're poor, you die. I mean, is that where we've come to as a society? I would hope not. And I would hope that just as our community rallied during Helene, we would have little pockets of neighbors helping neighbors, so we could do that again. And I just want to be the cheerleader for that kind of a response.
That is good to hear. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, but I got more questions for you if you're done with me. I mean, I don't know how much time you have to fill, but I'd rather spend it on you if you want.
Sure. Are there any other questions? Yes. Yeah, lay it on me.
Well, so, okay, as somebody 24 making your way in the world, what do you think your impact can be? What kind of lasting impact would you hope to leave with your body of work that you are building up here?
I'm kind of hoping for systemic change across the spectrum. My goal is to make as much impact as I can and try to pressure our state government to change the dang ballot access laws to make it easier for third parties and independents to run for office, and basically have them just basically stop trying to attack third parties stop trying to attack third parties by getting them off the ballot just because they're concerned about the spoiler effect.
Well, now tell me, how do they attack you if you're on the ballot? How do they? I know that there's the petition signature thing, which I've said is a really good thing. We should be thankful for that opportunity. I'm just saying. But how do they try to keep you off the ballot other than that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. And I can actually name you a couple of stories that happened. Back in 2022, the North Carolina Green Party actually managed to gather enough signatures to get on the ballot, but unfortunately, the North Carolina Democratic Party had made some frivolous efforts in an attempt to kick them off the ballots due to the fact that they were concerned that the Greens were going to split the vote. And so they actually attempted to sue him off the ballot, and at the time, the Democrats had controlled the state board of elections, and because of their partisan efforts, the Democrats were able to block the Greens off the ballot. But luckily, the Green Party was able to sue and get on the ballot, and a couple of years later, they were able to get some money back from all the resources that they lost while trying to fight the Democrats.
Okay, so you're talking about actual parties. You're not talking about just unaffiliated, which we are. We're just kind of like no man's land. We're out there for the best of everybody. You want a party that's for the, you want to create a third party.
I don't want to create
Is
a
that, is
third.
that what you're saying?
No, I don't want to create a third party. I just want to help third parties because I believe that third parties and unaffiliated, because of the culture that our state has against us for basically throughout most of our state's history. I feel like we got to work together on this in order to change the system because the Democrats and the Republicans have had control for a long time.
Yeah. Well, what about this idea? Do you think that you could just have enough, like all of us that are in that unaffiliated category at the state level, they could be power brokers, you know? They're not aligned with either party. They're just on their own, and they could be out there making the difference if you had enough of them rather than create the party itself that's threatening. Right now, that's a threatening thing. Those in power do not like to be threatened. But if you just had all these people like me that went out and just, here we are, we're on our own, and this is what we believe, and consider us, and then they get in, that would make a difference, do you think?
I would say so, and I would say that the first step in order to get to that, in order to get to that direction, would be to basically try to change the culture. And changing the culture, really, the government really can't do. That's something that we have to do ourselves.
Well, here's the other thing I found. A lot of young people have just checked out of the political. Do you see that?
Oh yes, I have seen that.
How do you re-engage them? That's a $64 question there. How do you re-engage them?
That's really tough considering that there is no universal answer to it. I would say the best way to to try to get them re-engaged is to ask them about things that they care about the most, and address any concerns that they have with the electoral system. And then you got to be able to like energize them, excite them, and make them and then have them be happy about providing something, about getting something that that could not only help them but help their communities.
Um, Let me tell you about a book. Do you ever follow Neil Howe, Howe? He's written a series of books called The Fourth Turning. Have you followed that ever?
I have not heard of that.
It's
Tell me about it.
it's fascinating because he studied American history, and he says about once every long generation, every 80 or 100 years, we're in the middle of like a huge upheaval in our society of how, I mean, think about it, there was the Civil Wars transformed, there was World War I, World War II, and he says we are now on the cusp of a fourth turning, and at the end of the fourth turning, that's the time that you see massive tumult in the society. And at that point, things are just upended. And that's, he said, it's hard for a spell, but after that, it's kind of like you're starting anew. There's new thoughts, new ideas, and I lament with my son who was telling me about this, and I said, I just hate this time of year. It's so divided, and it's things are just so bad. And he says, but you're getting to witness the fourth turning, and then you'll be, I don't know that I'll be around long enough to see what the rebirth is and how we remake ourselves. But for somebody your age, it truly is an exciting time in history because you can help shape what happens next, and you are positioning yourself in exactly a way to do that, James.
Absolutely. So, is there anything else you got?
Oh, I could talk to you all day. But well, I had one other question. When you look at the very introduction, I mean, you've got all this stuff, revolution, and all of it's like a power. You've got all this stuff, but the stuff the people you talk to, it's all pretty mild mannered, just kind of local stuff. I don't see any revolutionary type of stuff being talked about. What would you like to see? How would you like to make this more revolutionary to match your intro?
Hmm. I'm actually not really sure because when I'm comfortable with talking to like anyone, whatever, wherever they are.
Yeah. But I mean, you're talking to all these people with really cool ideas because they're, and I mean, I've listened to some of them. They are doing really wonderful things within their own community. Like they'll focus on one thing. Me, I'm the generalist. I just focus on everything because I was just doing little dips into all the stuff. But you've got people that just have one thing and they do it so well. You could like inspire a network to bring all those people together, and it's in North Carolina, in the state. You could have a little community of great ideas for the state or something.
I actually find it actually good you say that because later in June, as of this video's recording, today's date is May 20th, 2026. In early June, I'm actually going to be doing an event with multiple third parties in order to do an anti-war stream in order to protest what's going on with our foreign policy and the military-industrial complex and all that. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty
That
exciting.
does sound exciting. So how do we follow you? We just kind of follow you on your YouTube channel?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, hats off to you, James. I think you're onto something here.
Thanks. I'm really looking forward to growing this podcast.
How long ago did you start it?
Oh, I started last year,
Okay. Like toward the end of the year or beginning of the year?
middle of the year.
Middle of the year, and then you just do one a week.
Yep.
Yep. So you must understand the whole modern social media culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So are you on more than just YouTube? Do you do all the Instagram and Pinterest and Snapchat and the whole schmear?
I do Twitter occasionally, and then I do like TikTok like once a week just to like post updates on my podcast. But other than that, that's about it.
Well, what are your tips for growing your followership? Do you have any good tips you could share with the rest of us unaffiliated?
Hmm. Some tips to help people grow.
To grow your following?
Right. I guess the first step I would say is to find something that people would actually be interested in, because there are certain types of content that people are willing to watch more than others, and you just got to be able to find it. It will take a bit of trial and error, but once you can find it, you got to capitalize on it.
Well, what do people like? Tell me, what are the ones that you've found that are pretty interest grab a lot of interest?
Hmm. There's not like one particular thing when it comes to politics that has interest, but maybe like something on the news, like I don't know, like something that people can relate both nationally and locally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, a lot of people have been talking about the AI data center thing, so that's pretty interesting. I've heard a lot of people.
Okay.
I heard a lot of people talk about inflation. Apparently, too many. There's a whole ton of people that are way too interested in the Epstein files, and I was like, damn.
It's been going on quite a number of years.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. I wonder how you could bring inflation down to, everybody sees it, but how do you really put your arms around it, and
Hmm.
how it impacts your entire life? That's one thing that I would like to do. I think it's going to be really hard for people to take vacations this year because the cost of travel and gas is going to be so high. So what I'd like to do is we've got so many interesting things right here in our county. So I'd like to organize like a little mini tours, like of my little Bethel community here. We've got the Harvest Hub, the place where all the food is processed for distribution, and we've got a 10-acre garden, and they make pizzas on an outdoor oven. They're not licensed by the health department. And so they decided, not these owners, but the previous owner said, well, how about if I just took donations? You can't do anything to me there, can you? And they said, well, no. So he just makes thousands of pizzas, and it's just for a donation. And everybody just pays him about the price you'd pay for a pizza. It's doing great, but that's a unique little thing. And, we've got a person that, it's got this giant rock quarry and does this beautiful rock work all over. There's just hundreds of little things right in your back door that you could do to help people maybe not have to spend so much money, but still learn and have a good time. And the whole thing with inflation, that could maybe be catapulted into a bigger sort of issue.
All right, fair enough. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think I've got it on my end. How about you?
I think
Are you talked out?
I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Okay. Well,
So
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So with that being said, everyone, I hope you all have enjoyed this video. If you all enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, type in a comment for any suggestions you may have, hit the notification bell so that way you can be notified on any new videos coming up for this podcast. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all later.
See you, James.